I never thought that my birthday would turn into the catalyst for a series of events that completely upended my life. Yet, there I was, sitting alone in my room on what was supposed to be a day of celebration, drowning in bitter disbelief. I had always felt overlooked in my own family, but nothing could have prepared me for the cold, calculated indifference that day. My parents had canceled my birthday plans in favor of sending my spoiled sister on a luxurious trip with her friends. No explanation was given, just a curt, dismissive text message that left me reeling. I remember the precise moment I found out. I was scrolling through my messages when I saw the notification from my parents. The words were clinical, devoid of any warmth or remorse. "Your birthday celebration is canceled. Enjoy your day." It was as if I were nothing more than an inconvenience, a problem to be swept aside in favor of more glamorous pursuits. In that instant, a spark of fury ignited deep inside me, one that I hadn't known existed until that moment. I felt betrayed not only by my parents, but by the very system that had always made me feel disposable. It wasn't just about the cancellation, it was the symbolism behind it. My sister, who had always been the family's golden child, was given everything without earning it, while I was left to fend for myself. I'd spent months planning a modest but heartfelt celebration with a few close friends. I even went out of my way to make arrangements that would make the day special, but none of that mattered to them. Instead, they invested their time and money in a frivolous trip for her, an indulgence that felt like a slap in the face. The betrayal cut deep, and I vowed right then that I would never allow their neglect to define me. I didn't confide in anyone at first. I bottled up my anger and disappointment, convincing myself that I was overreacting, that maybe I was being overly sensitive. But as days turned into weeks, the sting of their betrayal only grew more pronounced. Every family gathering became a painful reminder of my insignificance. My sister would casually mention her trip as if it were a badge of honor, while I sat there in silence, my heart pounding with a mix of grief and simmering rage. In the midst of this internal storm, an unexpected lifeline emerged: my grandpa. He had always been the quiet observer in the background, a man whose wisdom and calm presence provided a stark contrast to the tumult of our family. One chilly afternoon, as I sat in my room stewing over the injustice, Grandpa knocked on my door. He had aged well, his face a map of experiences and hardships, but his eyes were as piercing as ever. "Come on, kiddo," he said softly, gesturing for me to join him on the small, worn-out couch in the living room. "Let's talk." At first, I hesitated. I wasn't used to sharing my deepest feelings, especially with someone who seemed so detached from our family's petty conflicts. But there was something in his tone, a genuine concern that disarmed my defenses. I poured out my heart, every ounce of pent-up frustration and sorrow spilling out like a torrent. I told him about the canceled birthday, the humiliating text, and the ever-growing sense of betrayal that had become my constant companion. Grandpa listened intently, his gaze never wavering from mine. When I finally fell silent, he sighed deeply. "I'm not surprised," he said, his voice tinged with a sorrow that mirrored my own. "Your parents have always been more interested in appearances than in substance. They've let you believe for too long that their love was conditional on what you could do for them." His words struck me like a bolt of lightning. I had suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed by someone who had seen the rise and fall of our family dynamics was both painful and liberating. "What can I do?" I asked, desperation creeping into my tone. "I can't keep living like this, feeling worthless." Grandpa leaned forward, his eyes burning with a quiet intensity. "You deserve better than their empty promises. I'm tired of watching them treat you like a burden. I'm willing to help you if you're willing to make a change." Over the next few weeks, Grandpa and I formulated a plan. It wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. It was a carefully calculated escape from a lifetime of neglect. I made the most difficult decision of my life. I was going to move out. I packed my belongings, said a few terse goodbyes, and left the suffocating confines of the home that had never truly been mine. The day I walked out the door for the last time, I felt a mix of liberation and dread. I was stepping into a world of uncertainty, yet I also felt the weight of years of mistreatment finally lifting from my shoulders. I was heading toward a future where I wouldn't be defined by my parents' choices, a future where I could reclaim my sense of self. Grandpa welcomed me into his modest apartment, a small but comfortable space that he had transformed into a haven for those who, like me, had been cast aside by the family they once trusted. Living with Grandpa was a revelation. He had a way of making the simplest moments feel profound, of turning everyday conversations into life lessons. Over time, he shared stories of his own struggles and disappointments, tales of how he had once been blinded by loyalty to those who ultimately betrayed him. His honesty was raw and unfiltered, and it resonated with me. For the first time, I began to see that I wasn't alone in my suffering. I was part of a larger narrative of resilience and defiance. But our newfound sanctuary was not without its challenges. Word of my departure spread quickly through the family grapevine, and it wasn't long before my parents tried to reel me back in. Their phone calls, laden with guilt and feigned concern, became a constant interruption. "We're sorry," they'd say. "We didn't mean to hurt you. Please come back home." Each call felt like a rehearsed script, devoid of any real emotion or remorse. I listened to their pleas with a detached calm, my heart hardened by the betrayal I had endured. I wasn't willing to forgive them, not when their actions had spoken louder than any apology ever could. Instead, I resolved to let my life speak for itself. With Grandpa's steady support, I began to build a new existence, one where I controlled my destiny and no longer allowed anyone else to dictate my worth. As the weeks turned into months, I started to notice subtle changes in my parents' behavior. They grew increasingly desperate, their attempts at reconciliation turning into a series of frantic, ill-conceived schemes. I soon discovered that their finances were crumbling, a consequence of years of mismanagement and indulgence. My sister's lavish trip had been just the tipping point, a symbol of their misplaced priorities. It wasn't long before Grandpa, who had watched the family's decline with a mixture of pity and disillusionment, took drastic measures. He cut off their financial support, severing the lifeline that had kept them afloat for so long. I remember the day he told me about it. We were sitting at the kitchen table, sipping on lukewarm coffee, when he dropped the bombshell. "They're on their own now," he said almost casually. "No more money, no more handouts. They need to learn that actions have consequences." That simple statement set off a chain reaction. My parents, desperate and cornered, began to lash out in ways that were as pitiful as they were vindictive. Their true feelings, long masked by a veneer of politeness and self-righteousness, began to surface. In whispered conversations and furtive glances, they admitted that I was never more than an afterthought, a reluctant burden that had only been tolerated for the sake of appearances. It was as if the removal of their financial cushion had stripped away all pretense, exposing the raw, unvarnished truth of their neglect. The revelation was as painful as it was satisfying. I felt a grim sense of justice settling in my bones, a validation of every moment I had felt small and unworthy. For the first time in years, I was free from the constant barrage of self-doubt and guilt that had been instilled in me by a family that never truly cared. The betrayal was complete, and I had no desire to mend the broken ties. Forgiveness was not on the menu. Revenge was the only language that made sense. I began to document everything, every slight, every dismissive remark, every instance of neglect. I meticulously compiled evidence of their cruelty, gathering texts, emails, and even recording snippets of conversations when I had the opportunity. I knew that one day I would expose them for who they really were. And that day came sooner than I expected. A few months after moving in with Grandpa, I decided it was time to take the next step. I created an online post detailing my experiences, a cathartic outpouring that resonated with countless others who had been hurt by similar betrayals. The post quickly went viral, sparking a wave of support and validation from strangers who recognized themselves in my words. It wasn't just a story, it was a manifesto against the hypocrisy of those who valued appearance over substance. The backlash was immediate. My parents, already reeling from their financial downfall, were forced to confront the harsh reality of their actions. I watched as their carefully constructed world crumbled in real time, each lie and half-truth laid bare for the public to see. The exposure was both a personal vindication and a public reckoning. I wasn't seeking fame or fortune. I simply wanted the truth to be known, to free myself from the chains of guilt and self-loathing that had bound me for so long. In the ensuing weeks, the tide of public opinion turned decisively in my favor. I received messages from people who had been in similar situations, each sharing their own stories of neglect and betrayal. It was a bittersweet validation. I knew that my pain was not unique, but it also underscored the pervasive cruelty of a system that favored privilege over empathy. My parents, on the other hand, were left isolated and humiliated. Their true nature, once hidden behind polite smiles and empty promises, was now an open secret. Grandpa's quiet satisfaction was perhaps the most rewarding of all. He never sought recognition or glory. His actions were driven by a desire for fairness and integrity. I often caught him smiling quietly to himself, as if the universe had finally balanced the scales. His support had been unwavering, a beacon of stability in a storm of betrayal. Together, we had rewritten the narrative, a narrative where the powerless took control and demanded accountability. In the months that followed, I continued to rebuild my life. I secured a job that respected my talents and allowed me to regain my independence. I moved into a small apartment near Grandpa's, close enough to share in his wisdom, but far enough to cultivate my own identity. The scars of my past remained, but they served as a reminder of the strength it took to rise above the pain. Every day was a step toward reclaiming the dignity that had been so long denied me. I'll never forget the day I received a final, desperate call from my parents. They were at their lowest point, their voices cracking with a mixture of shame and anger. "Please, come back," they pleaded, their words tinged with the desperate hope of someone clinging to the remnants of a shattered illusion. But I knew better. I had already moved on, leaving behind the remnants of a life that had never truly been mine. I answered the call with a calm finality that I hoped would echo in their hearts, a final chapter in a long, painful book of betrayal. Now, as I look back on that tumultuous period of my life, I realized that the pain was not in the betrayal itself, but in the realization of what I had been missing all along: a sense of self-worth. The experience forced me to confront the harsh realities of my family's hypocrisy and to carve out my own identity in the midst of chaos. I had learned that forgiveness was not a remedy for wounds inflicted by the ones who were supposed to love me unconditionally. Instead, I embraced a different form of justice, one that was rooted in self-respect and the refusal to be defined by others. My story is not one of redemption through reconciliation. It is a tale of liberation, a journey from the suffocating confines of a broken family to the vast, uncharted territory of self-discovery. I found solace in the knowledge that I was finally free from the toxic influences that had once dictated my every move. The betrayal I suffered was deep, but the revenge I exacted was sweeter. A vindication that resonated not only in the echoes of my shattered past, but in the bright promise of a future built on my own terms. To anyone out there who has ever felt discarded by those who were meant to cherish them, I offer this: stand tall, even in the face of betrayal. Embrace the anger, let it fuel your determination, and never allow yourself to be diminished by the cruelty of others. My journey taught me that sometimes the only way to reclaim your life is to walk away from the ones who refuse to see your value, to seek refuge with those who recognize the worth that lies within you. I still remember the quiet moments with Grandpa, the simple dinners where we shared more than just food. We shared wisdom, hope, and the unspoken understanding that life could be rebuilt from the ashes of our pain. His unwavering support was the cornerstone of my transformation, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there are those who will stand by you without expecting anything in return. Looking back, I realized that my parents' betrayal was not the end of my story. It was the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where I reclaimed my voice, built a life defined by my own choices, and embraced the freedom that comes from no longer being shackled by the expectations of others. In that journey, I found strength, clarity, and above all, the knowledge that I deserved better. Today, I live a life that is unburdened by the ghosts of my past. I have learned that true revenge is not about petty retribution. It is about reclaiming your dignity and refusing to be defined by the actions of those who have wronged you. The story of my birthday, the canceled celebration, and the fallout that followed is a reminder that sometimes the harshest betrayals can lead to the most profound transformations. I carry the scars of that day like badges of honor, symbols of a battle fought and won. I will never forget the feeling of isolation when my birthday was canceled, nor will I ever forget the quiet determination that drove me to leave behind a life of neglect. Every step I take now is a testament to the power of self-belief and the unwavering support of those who truly care. My parents may have exposed their true feelings in the end, but in doing so, they also revealed the strength that lay hidden within me all along. Now, as I sit here reflecting on the journey that has brought me to this moment, I am filled with a sense of calm certainty. I am not defined by their mistakes or my past. I have carved out a future where I am in control, where I set the rules, and where the echoes of betrayal have been replaced by the steady rhythm of a life rebuilt on my own terms. I owe it all to that one fateful birthday, a birthday that was stolen but, in the end, became the turning point of my life. The lessons I've learned are hard-won but invaluable. I have discovered that sometimes the most painful experiences are the ones that force you to grow beyond the confines of a toxic past. My decision to walk away was not an act of weakness, but a declaration of self-respect. I realized that forgiveness was not required, and in fact, would have only meant giving them the power to define me. Instead, I chose to embrace the bitterness of betrayal as a catalyst for change, a reminder that I was stronger than their indifference and more resilient than their shallow affections. As I move forward, I remain ever vigilant, aware of the fragility of trust and the ease with which it can be shattered. My journey is ongoing, a continuous effort to build a life free from the shadows of my past. I am grateful for the lessons learned and for the unwavering support of Grandpa, whose quiet wisdom helped me see the truth of my worth. My revenge was not one of violent retribution, but of living a life that defied their expectations, a life where every success was a testament to the fact that I was worth fighting for. In sharing my story, I hope to offer a glimmer of hope to those who feel abandoned and unworthy. I want you to know that your pain is real and your worth is immeasurable. Even when those who should cherish you fail to do so, remember that the strength to overcome lies within you. I have emerged from the wreckage of betrayal with my head held high, and I invite you to do the same. This is my story, a story of a birthday that was canceled, of a family that betrayed, and of a revenge that was not fueled by malice but by the relentless pursuit of dignity and self-respect. I have learned that sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply living your life on your own terms. I will never forgive the betrayal of my parents, but I have found something far more precious in its wake: the unyielding belief in my own worth and the freedom to define my own destiny. There are moments when I still catch myself wondering what might have been if things had been different, if I had been the favored child. But then I remember that every moment of pain was a stepping stone to the person I am today, a person who refuses to be diminished by the cruelty of others. I have reclaimed my voice, my identity, and my future, leaving behind a past that no longer holds sway over me. I share this not out of bitterness, but out of a desire to empower those who have been wronged. Let my journey serve as a reminder that even in the face of betrayal, there is a path to redemption. Not through forgiveness of those who wronged you, but through the unwavering pursuit of your own worth. Every scar is a testament to the battles fought, and every day is an opportunity to rewrite your own story. I now stand on the precipice of a new beginning, one where the echoes of betrayal have given way to the sound of my own heartbeat, a steady, resolute reminder that I am, and always will be, enough. My parents may have canceled my birthday and shattered the illusion of a perfect family, but they could never cancel the fire that burns within me. And in that fire, I found the strength to leave, to fight back, and ultimately, to build a life that is truly my own. This is the story of how I turned a day of betrayal into a lifetime of triumph. A story that is as painful as it is liberating, as bitter as it is sweet. It is a reminder that sometimes the only way to heal is to rise up, to let the truth be known, and to walk away from the shadows of those who never truly saw you. I have chosen my path, and with every step I take, I honor the resilience of the human spirit. A spirit that refuses to be silenced, no matter how deep the wound. I am the sum of my experiences, and today I am free. I am